Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Yeah, of course. It's really great to be here. My name is Petit, and I am the co-founder and CEO here at Liquidonate, and I am based in the Bay Area.
Awesome. So can you just tell me more about Liquidonate and what gave you the idea to actually create this company?
Yeah, so Liquidonate is a software company that matches the excess inventory from retailers to the schools and nonprofits that need it. And we do that because right now, up to 80% of returns in excess inventory actually end up in the landfill. And we know that there's a better way for that product to be routed. And so we built software that will empty a retailer's warehouse out of that excess inventory and prevent it from filling up again with our services that we provide. And the idea for Liquidonate came from my previous job, where I was the 15th employee at Postmates, and I spent about a decade there, all the way up through our acquisition by Uber, running a bunch of different teams and starting a lot of different components of the business, testing and trying new things. But ultimately, it led me to build out a product called Food Fight that matched the excess food from restaurants with nonprofits that needed it in 700 cities across the US. And so that was really where a lot of the idea for what we're doing with Liquidonate was born, is how can we do better at matching the supply and demand of things that are in existence and coordinate the logistics of getting it there to make it easier than throwing it away.
For sure, yeah. And for me also, I used to work in supply chain, so I'm very knowledgeable about the space. We definitely had a lot of product that went to waste. So speaking of that, what type of organizations do you typically partner with to A, get the products from, and B, give the products to?
Yeah, so on the supply side, we work mostly with retailers and brands. So today, we work with some really incredible retailers, some who really love to call out the sustainability initiatives that they have, like Room and Board, and some that prefer to keep it more private and close to the chest. On the demand side, we've built a nonprofit demand network of over 3,800 nonprofits and schools today. And what they do is that they let us know the types of items that they're interested in, and then we match all of those products to them as part of the supply and demand marketplace that we've built.
Awesome. So what is your big focus right now in 2024? Is it kind of looking to get more retailers or more organizations? What are you really focused on to kind of ramp up this year?
Yeah, so we really are always looking for new retailers and brands that are interested in giving excess inventory and returns that are unsellable to nonprofits in order to save at least 50% on their reverse logistics costs, plus be able to take a tax write-off. Of course, I mean, as you and I also know, and I'm sure a lot of the folks listening, that it's the right thing to do. Throwing something in the landfill or incinerating it because it is unsellable, but it still has usable life, is not something that anyone really should be putting up with as a practice by retailers in the first place. And so we just wanted to make sure we were making it easier than throwing it away or incinerating it. And so that's what really got us to build what we've built so far with the software. And the other piece of that is that this year we're really focused on product market fit. So for the startups of the world, I mean, one of the things we learned from Postmates is you have to figure out what your product market fit is, as does every other book about startups, right? It tells you, what is your product market fit? Where do you fit into this entire ecosystem of things? And so this year is, we've been doing this for about a little over 2.5 years now. So our goal for 2024 was to really focus on product market fit. So that we would be able to figure out exactly where we made sense in the ecosystem of organizations and companies that are doing similar things or tangential things, and how we can fit into that. And so we feel really good about where we've landed on that halfway through the year, and I'm sure even at the end of the year we'll be even more set on that.
So speaking of that, what have you seen, right? What have been the most successful types of retailers, a certain size or types of products? What makes the most sense for you in terms of that kind of partnership and product market fit?
Yeah, so we've really focused on big and bulky. So furniture, mattresses, this whole category of products that have really been left behind by the rest of the industry. it's really expensive to return a couch. It's expensive to return a mattress. Like these things cost retailers money. And for these smaller shippable items, it's about $15 on average per item to the retailer to accept your return. But for these other larger items, it's significantly more than that because there's so much more that goes into it. And so while we have a product that is able to take anything that's shippable and find the best way to get it shipped to the right nonprofit that needs that item, that is really like close to the place where it starts. These big and bulky items have just kind of been left behind. And so we've been focusing on that. And so we've done multiple pilots and have multiple relationships with retailers that are doing these oversized larger items and making sure that these products that are difficult to move, but also extremely high value to a nonprofit are able to actually get there.
So do you work with brands like on Amazon or Shopify, or I guess like what are the platforms that your brands are typically sitting on?
Yeah, so we have multiple ways to access our product. The first one is a web app. So any retailer can go to our website and they can sign in once they've signed an agreement with us. That allows them to give access to their warehouse manager to upload inventory by the box, by the pallet, or by the truckload. And so that's just a simple web app. Pretty straightforward form. You don't have to download anything. You don't need to be technically savvy. That's one way that folks can access the platform. Then if the retailer is on Shopify already, they are able to download our Shopify app, and that would enable them to route any of their returns that they want to see go to a nonprofit, and anything they want back at the warehouse to go back to their warehouse. That's the most simplified version of it on the Shopify side. And then the third way is that we have a donation as a service API that we've created, and that enables us to integrate into any retailer's website at the returns page in order to make sure that we're matching that product with the best outcome for it.
Makes sense. So if they're on Amazon, they would have to go and access your web app, right, separately.
Yeah, so if they were wanting to donate from Amazon, we do not have an integration with them today. So they would need to use our web app, or they would be able to, if they were also selling the products that they're selling on their Amazon store on Shopify, then of course they could use the Shopify app, but otherwise, no luck.
Makes sense. So in terms of like on your vision board for this year, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned that you're in the States, but are you looking to expand globally or other places? Like, what else like are you focused on besides finding this product market fit?
Yeah, this year, I mean, that's a big enough win for us to get for this year. So that's what we're focused on is just product market fit. I think one of the things that we learned really early on is when we're trying to focus on too many different things at once and we don't all have one standard marching order of what we're working towards, it can lead to splintered paths and some confusion. And so we're trying to learn from that and saying like, no, this year is product market fit. We will focus on our ICP, our ideal customer profile. We will go after them. We will continue to build features that enable them to have a more seamless experience on their side, more automation on our side, and really like hone in on like, what does it look like to have a software company that builds products specifically for these, less represented categories when it comes to returns, but still have super high value in terms of who needs them.
Makes sense. So speaking of features, I mean, obviously now many companies are using AI. So are you guys in that space? And if not, like where can AI come in and bring you some value in the future?
Yeah. I think a lot of companies have been using AI for a long time in different forms, and we are one of those companies. Almost every company I've worked for has used some kind of artificial intelligence or machine learning in order to make things move faster and in a more automated fashion. So I think there's just a few different distinctions between the types of AI that are really popular right now, like generative AI and like versus machine learning, for example. The ways that we use it a few different ways today. I mean, we've built a matching algorithm, and that matching algorithm is really how we've been able to instantly match products from nonprofits with or products from the retailers with the nonprofits that need it, and do that in an instant way that uses artificial intelligence in order to build that matching algorithm to make that happen so quickly. But outside of that, we don't have an outsized focus on AI and what impacts it has to our business as it pertains specifically to our business. Although we are, continuing to watch the larger technology space and see where it continues to grow and continues to impact companies, but it's not a main focus for us today.
Hey y'all, it's Dan Melnick, the CEO of Zing, and I wanted to share a special offer for all of our listeners. Right now, if you need software development services, we'll give you 2 weeks of a free trial. Do you need to update your website? Do you want to build a mobile app? Do you want to update something that you've been working on for a long time. We've worked in a high-level technologies like AI, machine learning, blockchain. So shoot me a text, 817-874-2208. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that many organizations like feel like they have to use it because it's like become like this trend. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I mean, just to your point, right? Like it has to make sense for your business. It's like not everything needs to have AI. It's just sort of like a buzzword of 2024.
Yeah. I mean, we find ourselves like talking to folks who are asking us around what our company does with AI, and we give them the answer, but at the same time, it's like we're doing a first of its kind thing. We've created a donation as a service API, this donation disposition outcome for any product that is considered unsellable. Like we have the potential to change the way that retailers get rid of excess inventory and goods. And between us and a re-commerce company, we really could be changing the way and have zero items ever go to a landfill that like don't need to go to a landfill. And so however we get there, there's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations along the way. And perhaps AI does play a huge role in that at some point in the future as things move forward. But right now we're just focused on like, how do we make this really work in the world we live in today with the tools that we have at our disposal?
For sure. So let's kind of like dive deeper into the flow of it because I'm curious. So for example, right, like the retailer has excess inventory that and they go on your platform and then do you call like a truck for them to come and pick it up? Or I guess like what does that look like for them?
Yeah, so the retailer will go online and they will upload the products that they have if they're in the warehouse to our system. They'll tell us the types of items, how they're packaged, as well as the address, things like that. And then they click submit. And that's actually all that the retailer has to do, which we wanted to make it super simple for them. So that happens. And then on the back end, our matching algorithm will go through all of the nonprofits we have. And then based on a number of different parameters that we've set, it will determine this is the best nonprofit for this item. And it will also coordinate the logistics on the back end. We want it to always be free for nonprofits to sign up with us. And so we have it free for the nonprofits to register. And then if they would like to go pick it up themselves, we do have a free pickup option so that we can make sure that there's always a free option for the nonprofit. If they would like us to coordinate logistics, then we are able to do that through those through some third-party logistics companies that we have partnerships with, and we're happy to coordinate that on their behalf and do that, and then do a pass-through of the cost for the logistics service, either to the retailer if they're willing to take that cost on, or to the nonprofit if the item is valuable enough for them to pay a delivery fee coordination for.
But does the software typically match people like in a more like you could say localized way just to save money on transportation?
Absolutely. So transportation and emissions, like we're a climate tech startup. And so our goal is to reduce the emissions and the distance traveled for these products, as well as doing pretty extreme landfill diversion. And so with those being kind of our base metrics, so far we're at an average of 83% reduction in transit for these products, which we're really excited about and excited to see how that keeps growing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's important, but also like from a business side, it's a huge cost savings. It's like if you're in California and you're shipping to like New York, it's, it's opposed to like down the street, like why? So yeah, if you can set that up, it definitely makes much more sense. So what would you say is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before you started this business?
Oh, wow. There's so many. Oh, wow. I don't know why this one, I just like, I'm thinking of like 10 different things I could say. What's the best piece of advice that I wish I would have thought of earlier, would have known earlier? I would say you just have to be really open-minded about what your product is going to become. I think there's so many different ways that people think about a problem. And when you are someone who's moving into the space as a first mover and like coming up with a new way to do it, there is so much pushback about how it's going to work and if it's going to work. Yeah, I wish that I had all of that confidence from day one that like this was a solution that people were going to need. And although I believed it and I knew it, it just, once you get told no many, 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 many times, you start to think, oh, is this such a good idea? And so I think, having a little bit more experience or advice previously about when you're the first one doing something in a space that you're going to hear a lot of no's, but then you're going to land a big yes. And once you get a big yes from an enterprise retailer, you have something and you can move forward from that.
Right. So you're saying that you didn't realize like how much persistence it would take to get your first customer and, really it's like get, as you could say, like, early adopter that you got which was a big retailer that kind of created this trickle effect of other people who were interested then in using your service and product.
Absolutely. I mean, I think with Postmates, I was there really early on, but I wasn't the one doing the fundraising. I wasn't the one selling employees on like joining the company as like, we were a super, super small company. There was a lot of things that I didn't realize went into the early stages because I just wasn't exposed to it because I wasn't on the founding team. And so
What was your
that has
role
been really
there
fascinating.
compared to like what you're doing that what was your role at Postmates?
So when I was at Postmates, I was the 15th employee there, and I started off to run our customer service team.
Okay.
So I grew that team from a 5 to 100, turned it into an operations team, went out and remotely managed that team while starting our launch team, and helped to launch the first 5 cities for Postmates outside of San Francisco, including Seattle, New York, DC, LA, and the South Bay. When I came back from that, I started our sales team and signed the first 500 restaurants to the platform in a time when restaurants were not particularly excited about third-party food delivery. And from those conversations realized, wow, we really need to get on the ground level and figure out exactly what's going on at these restaurants and what's going to work for them. So I helped product manage on the merchant tablet, which is the tablet that all third-party delivery services are using today. And would be like, oh my gosh, when someone goes to push this button, they're wearing gloves at this point of the transaction. And so this needs to be a physical button instead of a virtual button. And just these types of learnings you get from being there and seeing it versus what you could ever possibly build in an office. And then after that, the product I was talking about with Food Fight was because Mark Benioff of Salesforce was starting Pledge 1% and wanted Postmates to be a builder in that movement. So our CEO at Postmates asked me to start our social impact team because he knew I was really passionate about the intersection of technology and social impact. And so that's where we built Food Fight. And then we also built another product called Bento. And Bento is still around today, and it's a really awesome product that I'm really excited about. And it enables folks who don't have access to smartphones to text the word hungry to a specific number and receive a free meal from the nearest Postmates pickup restaurant. Wow. And for that, we did win the Time Magazine Invention of the Year award. So it was a really awesome almost decade at Postmates. When we were acquired by Uber, I was offered a full-time role there and was there for a few months, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. So decided to leave and get this started.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it seems like over there you have a lot of experience doing lots of very relevant things. But as you said, right, like having your own startup, it's always different. It's a new idea, new product, and always challenging. So speaking of Liquid Donut, if we're going to have this conversation again in 1 year from now, where do you see things going for your business?
Yeah. So this year we're all focused on product market fit. How do we make sure that what we're building and selling is really focused on our ICP, our ideal customer profile, which is, big and bulky, oversized products. Next year, our focus is going to be more on integrations. So making sure that we're working with the largest RMS companies, making sure that we're working with re-commerce companies, because at the end of the day, there is this subset of products that goes through a re-commerce company or like a resale company that still don't end up being sold. Like what happens to all the stuff that gets listed on Poshmark that doesn't sell?
Right.
What happens to all the stuff that gets listed on Ghost and doesn't sell? Like what happens when something gets listed on these liquidation sites and it doesn't sell?
Right.
That problem is like what we solve, and we're the only piece of the puzzle that is really missing there. And so we're really excited to dig deeper on what does that look like with, warehouse management tools and companies that are selling similar software for resale, but not necessarily having the donation fulfillment option.
Awesome. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you, what's your website or social media, I guess, best ways to get in contact?
Yeah. So liquiddonate.com is the website. So it's like don't liquidate, liquid donate. So that's where the name comes from. And then my email is diz at liquiddonate.com or disney@liquiddonate.com will get you there as well. Liquid Donate has 1 D, contrary to popular opinion sometimes. Would love to hear from anyone who's interested in chatting more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you and talk to you and tell you more about Liquid Donate.
Thank you.